Hello everyone. So I had an issue with this Camaro when I purchased it where oil or soot would leak out of the exhaust system onto the concrete and leave stains on the driveway or wherever it was I parked. And so I started researching the issue and stumbled across oil catch cans. And I'm sure if you're familiar with these cars, you know, when you read reviews of these cars, the first thing people talk about putting in is you need to put in an oil catch can. Well, I don't race this car. It's a convertible. It's, you know, I mosey where I go, so none of this stuff is important to me. For what probably a typical oil catch can would be used for, to help performance, things of that nature, but that's not why I did this. This is so that the car would quit leaving black spots as it's warming up on the driveway. So what happens, again, the car cranks up, it starts to come to temperature, and these spots here on the muffler, there are weeping holes in it that cause this black soot look on the back of the muffler. And it typically leaves black soot on the concrete. I'll show you where it did part before. And it did leave black spots, so like that one. And there's right in here, right in there, here, just wherever the car came to rest for the night. The next morning I would get in here and black spots would be on the concrete. So that was my reason for purchasing an oil catch can and trying to resolve the issue, was that. So I looked at the Mishimoto and it had the best reviews. People just love that product, and makes sense. Seems like there's some technology involved there that people gave it a thoughtful engineering, and so it works. But I'm cheap. I'd rather come up with another solution that's just as good, if not better, but for less. So I went to Amazon and bought this unit here. It is a Tucson Racing oil catch can, and I paid $19.99 for the unit. The unit came with the barbs for the input and output. It also came with the bracket on the top that you can use to adjust the oil catch can position. And that's all it came with. So for $19.99, that's what you got. I went to Home Depot and probably paid about $5 for this metal bracket here that I bent and painted and put into here. This screw here was going to be what I thought was going to be a problem, because I didn't want the system to lose its connection or lose the strength of the connection by me taking this bolt out and putting in this bracket in between it, and it losing some sort of strength there. So taking this bolt out, when you do, if you do, you'll find that that bolt has at least a 1/2 inch of thread contact wherever it is, and that is with this 1/8 inch bracket in place. So I'm not worried about that bolt coming loose or being a problem and not being able to support this particular strut bar brace. You know, if you don't have the convertible, you don't have this brace, but you do have this brace. And so that bolt is not going to be a problem with this brace. The next thing I did, so I've got probably $25 into this so far. I went to Autozone and I bought 5/8 inch gas hose for the input and for the output. And I also bought, well, it's easy to show you on this side, these connectors here. I did not want the worm gear style connectors on this car. I feel like this is a more factory looking solution than worm gear style clamps. I also didn't want to put in any kind of connectors into the factory's place that would be an issue down the road. So what I did was I took apart the connector top, the intake side, and then the engine side. There are two fittings, and these two things will just fall off, and they're not fall off, but pull off. And they're connected with a hose that goes from top, or from bottom to top. So I cut off the hose carefully and inserted this hose and reinserted back the factory connector into the intake, and did the same for the bottom. So that was my solution. Since I put this in, the next problem I found with this, and it's probably gonna be a problem with them all, regardless of manufacturer, was it was leaking out the bottom. Underneath here is a drain hole, so you can drain it. I don't do that. I just unscrew the canister and then I'll pour it into the drain oil can that I have that I drain my oil into. But you may want to take out the fitting on the bottom, put in some PFTE tape around it, and reinsert that, and it won't leak anymore. So for all of this, I bet I have 35 bucks into this, not the hundreds of dollars that Mishimoto wants for a similar solution. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope you find it as an alternative to spending a lot of money, and it works just as well. If you take this catch can apart and on their Amazon's website and look at the inside of it, and you look at the inside of how the Mishimoto is made, they're identical. There is no difference. Anyway, thanks. Hope you find it helpful.